Twisting and turning its way through the Virginia countryside, a lap around VIR is the racing equivalent of a roller coaster ride. Today, this 3.27-mile, 17-turn track plays host to round 6 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS season. Hello, everyone, and welcome to VIR, Virginia International Raceway. My name is Ryan Marine. I've got Calvin Fish alongside in the broadcast booth, Amanda Busick in the pit lane. I could describe this track to you, but how about instead you take a ride yourself in our track preview with U.S. Racetronics driver Stephen Agakani.
Here you are coming onto the front straight, very long front straight. Enough time to kind of relax your hands, look at the temperature gauges, make sure everything's all good. Going into turn 1, a really heavy braking zone. Immediate trail off into the brakes, kind of roll the speed into the corner. Make sure you're using all the track on the exit, going up through the gears, making sure we're coming back to the right side, flat out for this little left kink here. Going into turn 3, easy off the brakes, really roll speed there. You can see that the corner is very flat, so it's a lot of mechanical grip through that. Going here into 4A, started the lower S's, as we like to call it. Really high mechanical grip here. You know, the car has to have really good tires to ensure you're rolling a lot of speed through here. This is a very crucial sector as you can lose a lot of time or make up a lot of time through this part here. Here we go, starting into the Virginia signature area, the climbing hill S's. This can be done easily flat out, but as of here, the tires were a little bit older, so weren't able to do that. Going downhill into turn 10, making sure you're using all the track, especially the curbing on the exit there. Going up here into 11, braking at the 2 marker, really trying to roll the car in. Going here into 12, Oak Tree Bend, signature corner here at the track. And here we go, extremely long back straight, really making use of all that V8 6.3 liter power. Making sure we're relaxed, getting ready, going into the big braking zone, braking at the 1 board. Going down into the gears, and here we do have some live traffic here, not a problem. Making sure we're using all the power and all the grip of those Pirelli slicks. Coming down here into the roller coaster, a little bit offline because you did pass a car, but not a problem here. To make sure we're using all the track out and using all the track on the way back on the exit, making sure we get the proper run for that front straight. And that was a lap around Virginia International Raceway. Thanks, everyone.
GT3 cars can do a lap around this track in under a minute and 43 seconds. That's the car that will start on the outside of the front row for race 2 of the weekend today. This car very much in the wars yesterday as well. Great duels throughout this field. Calvin Fish, we saw U.S. Racetronics mixing it up with Turner Motorsport, K-Pax Racing in the mix, all at the very front of the field, but it's a mixed-up grid for race 2 today.
It is, and you'd have to think, when is the day that this team is going to break through? Burst on the scene here this year with immediate effect, have had pace, but they just can't seem to execute perfectly to get that victory. It's so competitive now. You have to almost be perfect to get that race win. They got the pace. Spinelli will start on the front row. You know he wants to get that track position early and trying to create a gap when his teammate jumps on board.
Speaking of the racing yesterday, let's take a look at some of the highlights from race 1 of the weekend. And it was K-Pax Racing on the pole and quickly going 1-2 at the front of the field, but further back, some wild stuff early on.
Yeah, Agakani there from the front row gets dumped immediately down to that 4th position. It was a big battle between he and the Turner Motorsports BMW. This is a big moment in the race. There's a big compression of traffic. Ashton Harrison, who'd been bumped off course, suddenly finds herself in the middle of that, rams into the back of Samantha Tan. Major carnage here. Several cars were damaged and will not see action here today.
Yeah, JC Sada caught up in that as well. And they, of course, a Ferrari, some side-to-side contact here as Agakani made his way up through the field and Michael Dinan following him through.
Yeah, that was a beautiful piece of opportunistic move there by Michael Dinan. Saw the little argy-bargy, took advantage, moves that BMW up to 2nd.
Here's some more side-by-side racing. That's Agakani forced wide, perhaps by Misha Goikberg. The stewards had a look at it, thought they didn't need to make any judgments during the race. Everyone was talked to after the race. More side-by-side between these two cars later on.
Little touch there in that right rear on that green Lamborghini Huracan is cut down. There you see slowed a little bit. Agakani gets into him. Next corner, suddenly there's a bigger moment as Misha Goikberg goes for a spin, but fortunately was near pit lane.
Here's another bold move up the inside from Loris Spinelli. He's able to grab a spot away. A wild ride for Jordan Pepper in the green K-Pax Lamborghini. He kept it on the racetrack, but his teammate brought it home out in front once again. A perfect start to the season for Andrea Caldarelli, and now his new teammate starting a couple of rounds ago, Michele Beretta, who started on pole yesterday.
Yeah, they've gone 5 on the badge. Might be tough today as they start from the 3rd row of the grid with that number 1 K-Pax machine.
So many good stories throughout this field. We're getting closer to the start of race number 2 of the weekend at the 3.27-mile Virginia International Raceway circuit. A live look at the pit lane, closing in on the start of the 2nd race of the season, the 6th round of the championship. And so much up for grabs in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. One of the great stories is that car, the 93, kind of a Frankenstein version of this Acura NSX GT3 Evo. That car heavily involved in the incident at the start of the race. Going back to race 1 yesterday, they had to go to another Acura team that races in another championship, Rick Ware Racing, which has a shop in Charlotte, North Carolina, to get spare parts, bring them back to the track last night, and they got that car ready to go. It will race here today. In fact, starting on the overall pole, despite being a Pro-Am car, courtesy of a great qualifying lap for Mario Farmbocker. Down to Amanda.
Well, joining us for the 6th race of the Fanatec GT season right here on Father's Day Sunday, surrounded by your sons, Command Sergeant Major Brian Knight with the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Now that's what I'm talking about.
That's the way to do it.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Amanda, for the introduction. Thanks to our guest for the enthusiastic command, and the engines roar to life here with 18 cars set to take the green flag, we believe. Might be down to 17, waiting on the confirmation of that. And the cars will head out for the first of 2 formation laps here in just a few moments' time with, again, Mario Farmbocker in the repaired Racer's Edge Motorsports Acura NSX GT3 Evo, set to start from the overall pole, but that car has not been tested since it's been repaired. The first true test is coming up here in just a few moments when the green flag drops. Well, like we talked about, Calvin, some casualties from race 1 of the weekend yesterday. We don't expect to see the ST Racing car out on track, AF Corsa as well, after the big hit yesterday. So of the 3 cars involved, 2 of them unable to participate in race 2 today. That's costly from a championship perspective, and it's really just a shame given the hard work and effort that these teams make to be here each and every weekend.
Yeah, particularly for that ST Racing team, because Whitmer had the fastest time here on Friday. They are very buoyant about their opportunity to maybe grab a win here this weekend. So big disappointment. That BMW M4 is relatively young in its life here in this championship. There's not a lot of ton of spare parts around, so that's very unfortunate. But the good news is our pole sitter, Mario Farmbacker's car, has been repaired. They'll see the overall pole and the pole in Pro-Am, and he's got a very fast Ferrari right behind him. Ryan Diel, that Triazzi Competizione team, very much on form. Had 2 class wins here yesterday, getting the AM victory as well.
Yeah, Triarsi Competizione, new team to the championship outside of a brief debut at Sebring last year, but they've announced their presence, certainly in the AM class all season long, but yesterday was a big day for this car, this driver tandem.
Yeah, Wetherill did a great job, and then Ryan sealed the deal. He's had a monster speed. He knows a lot of the crew members here. The team is really starting to gel. Great chemistry there. He's going to be a real threat here for the win.
A lot of eyes here early on the points leader, Andrea Caldarelli, starting all the way back in 6th overall.
Well, typically it's Andrea who brings it home and gets that win, but I think his teammate Beretta may have the work to do in the second part of this race. You know Andrea's going to be up on the wheel trying to move that car forward from its 6th grid position, but if he's not able to get to the front, maybe in the second half of this race is when K-Pax can execute a good clean pit stop and get Beretta to the lead.
And we'll be keeping an eye on that. Loris Spinelli, who was very much in the wars yesterday, as was this entire team, looking for that first clean race. They have had the pace. Now, this car was supposed to start on the outside of the front row. Looks like they dropped down a little bit further back, and I'm not sure why that would be.
Well, we did see an incident there with Agakano. You wanted to get a steward's decision on that, so I'm not sure if they've suffered a penalty here. With their starting position, should be starting on the front row. But right now we see him back behind Caldarelli.
Just did see something has come through, a 5-position grid pace penalty to the 6 car as well as the 3 car. So that would be the, that's basically both of those cars involved in that, both given
equal blame.
Interesting. So that will be something to watch. 2 very fast cars now, a little bit further back in the pack than we initially expected them to be based on the qualifying results from 1 day ago. So late changes to the grid with penalties to both the K-Pax Racing number 3 as well as the US Racetronics number 6. The stewards handing down 5 grid place penalties to both of those cars, and they will line up in different spots than were shown on the initial grid. That means the front row is made up of a pair of Pro-Am entries. Mario Farmbocker on the overall pole. Ryan Dial will start next to him. Colin Brown now up to the 3rd starting spot, also a Pro-Am car before you get to the first Pro entry. And Andrea Caldarelli now finds himself out in front of the Pro class in an unexpected way. Giacomo Altoe lines up 5th for TR3 Racing. He'll have Loris Spinelli next to him. Back in row 4, Robbie Foley and Jordan Pepper set to go from that grid spot. Nick Whitmer won't take the start. He was due to line up on the inside of row 5. Dirk Muller alone by himself in that row. Jan Halen will start 11th for Wright Motorsports. Next to the AM class pole sitter Onofrio Triarci. Corey Lewis back in 13th. Bill Oberlin alongside. Then you get to the 15th starting spot, Brian Sellers next to Drew Stavely, who had a nice run to 6th yesterday for Ian Lacey Racing. Final row made up of Michael Cooper, the real-time racing team, and Madison Snow for Zelus Motorsports, an Acura, and a Lamborghini on the last row of the grid.
We talk about that unbeaten record for Caldarelli being vulnerable every single day, but already it's got a little bit easier because he suddenly moved from 6th to 4th on the grid, so gets him a little bit more towards the sharp end. As I said, maybe it's his teammate who's going to have to seal the deal here today. You know, the K-Pax team, they don't feel they got the fastest car here this weekend, but they continue to execute, focus forward, and try to tick all of their boxes and see how things shake out.
3 onboard cameras for you today. One of them now moved over to the Turner Motorsport team. This one was riding on board with Samantha Tan yesterday when she had her incident. We hope it brings Turner a bit more luck today. On board here with the pole-sitting car, Mario Farmbocker. Keep in mind, this car has not turned a hardship lap. It has not been on track since that heavy crash yesterday. The crew has been working hard to make sure it's safe and pointed in the right direction, ready to go. Mario's about to put it to the test. And then on board with Jordan Pepper, the South African ace, part of the tandem of Pepper and Goikberg now aboard this number 3 car for K-Pax Racing.
Well, looking at that incident yesterday, it was almost like a center punch that Ashton had with that race car, so I wouldn't think too much suspension was damaged, but again, the positioning of that front splitter is super critical in terms of the downforces of these race cars, and maybe it'll change the balance a little bit if it is slightly different.
We're about to know whether or not that car is all good to go, because Mario Farmbocker will be taking the green flag first. The number 93 car, it's typically all red with a little carbon black on the front of it. But a good-looking car is a fast race car, as the old adage goes, and it's been quick all throughout the weekend so far. Ryan Dial will start on the outside of the front row in the Triarci Ferrari, and slotting up right behind Colin Brown and Andrea Caldarelli on the Pro Class pole, thanks to penalties to 2 other cars in that class. Field in good alignment coming down the front straightaway, waiting to enter that VP acceleration zone, and the green flag awaiting the field of GT World Challenge America. Green flag in the air. Farmbocker with a nice jump, but Dial keeping pace with him on the run down to the horseshoe.
Oh, this is going to get feisty here. Look at Spinelli dodging around there. Kind of the 4th car in line, 3 wide there. That's going to be awfully tight. Spinelli forces the issue on Caldarelli.
Might have been some contact there. Meanwhile, good move from Colin Brown. He jumps up to the 2nd spot. Spinelli is right behind him. Dial, the big loser, after a good start, he gets shuffled back to 4th.
Yeah, Caldarelli's dropped a spot as well, our championship leader, as he tries to settle back in here.
Too wide further back in the pack. The first 8 cars or so single file. Turner and K-Pax going side by side there briefly. Oh, and a wild moment for Michael Cooper, able to rejoin right in the thick of the action.
Yeah, and that's where the car had a big incident earlier this week and really curtailed their development and progress here this weekend. So on the rebound a little bit. Now side by side between Michael Cooper and Madison Snow. Snow tucks it back in there.
2 young Americans that have got their teeth over the last 10 years or so. Not expecting to be at the back of this pack, but so deep is this field. If you're off just that little bit, it's easy to find yourself in that position.
It really is. So Farmbocker in that wounded car has got the lead from the pole, stretching it out a little bit. Colin Brown, an excellent start, gets his car up to second and second in Pro-Am.
But you called it, the start from Spinelli. That is crucial. He's grabbed the Pro Class lead away from Caldarelli and has a car gap in between. An out-of-class car on board now with the race leader, Mario Farmbocker.
Well, certainly Spinelli appears to be very frustrated with the speed that they've displayed this year, but yet to get to victory lane. So he's going to try and correct that. Oh, and off early. This is the 91 machine of Corey Lewis. I think that's on the entry to the roller coaster, so maybe some side-by-side action there into the brake zone.
Jeff Burton, who he shares this car with, had a nice drive earlier today until a miscue caused him a drive-through penalty in the GT America race, and perhaps more a heartbreak for the Utah-based driver Jeff Burton and his Nazareth, Pennsylvania-based co-driver Corey Lewis.
You can see there, very different line coming through turn 1. Let's learn see how this one develops here. Oh, he had some kind of issue there.
Yep.
Suddenly all of the tires were locked up. I'm not sure if he lost his ABS. I believe that's more of a technical issue than a driver error.
And it certainly looked that way. That puff of smoke certainly abnormal in one of these GT3 cars. Opening lap, fastest driver on track. Give a call to the Racer's Edge crew. Mario Farmbocker in a car that has not raced since it took heavy damage early in race 1 yesterday, out in front with the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud. He's a real wheelman, just gets up on it. He wants to get this victory, backing up the win that they had in class at NOLA just a few weeks ago.
Their last 3 results coming into the weekend, a second, and a win. So riding a wave of momentum, had a solid day brewing yesterday before the misfortune.
How deep he takes that car in, and I have to think that for Corey Lewis it was some kind of braking issue there. With ABS, you just absolutely nail the brakes, using the downforce of the car at high speed to get it arrested. But suddenly, if there's no ABS system kicking in, you're overpowering that and locking up the tires.
Full course yellow, we saw Corey Lewis still off, stranded in the grass, a ways off track, but in a perilous position. So the full course yellow comes out. Biggest movers early on, Spinelli able to jump 3 spots to grab the Pro Class lead and run 3rd overall. And Brian Sellers also up a couple of spots at the start of that first lap, now running 7th in Pro-Am with 1 hour and 26 minutes to go at VIR. Well, Loris Spinelli, Calvin's not a driver who is likely to wait around. He's very aggressive. We've seen that all season, and he used that to his advantage. Up on the wheel early, grabbing a couple spots.
Yeah, you know, he was just steaming inside that helmet to get that grid penalty. He was thinking about grabbing the lead here, so he had to come from deeper in the pack, but certainly made some ground here early, so gets them in good track position. It's all about executing. He's leading the Pro Class right now with Caldarelli in 2nd, 5th overall, 2 positions back on that Mercedes, so he's in good shape. But as we said, the second phase of this race today will really pay the big points, of course.
This is not a position that they're unfamiliar with. It seems like the Sunday races, we've seen it in the 2 previous race weekends, they will go into the pit window out in front, and it's always been something that's happened then that's caused the issue, and they're just waiting to put a full 90-minute race together. They've had the speed. Stephen Agakani, for his relative lack of experience, has been remarkable behind the wheel throughout the course of the season, and Spinelli has had the pace to match it for sure. Leading up that team is the more experienced driver in that pairing. but putting that complete race together has eluded them.
It has, and they've had a couple of issues with wheels. One at Sonoma where either the wheel didn't get put on correctly and suddenly it sort of lathed the wheel open with the brake caliper, and then we saw them try to put the wrong side on the Mercedes. There's a left-hand thread on the left side of the car, right-hand thread on the right side. They had that mixed up during servicing the wheel over the course of the weekend, so that caused a big delay. And then even yesterday here, we saw where they had some issues, had to do a drive-through penalty, and then they were topping the car up with fuel, which was very bizarre after their mandatory pit stop, where they should have had enough fuel on board. So little issues are costing them now, and they just need to clean up. They got the speed, they got the pace in the drivers, they got all of the ingredients there. It's just kind of stirring the pot in the right direction.
And Spinelli finds himself in a very good position, third on the road, but the leader in class with Ryan Dial's Pro-Am class car in between himself and his closest competitor, Andrea Caldarelli.
Yeah, and DL didn't have the best of starts there. He was looking for a lot more, looking to grab the lead. Now he's back and forth overall, third in the class. So let's see what he can do. Not an easy track to pass on, but we do have those deep brake zones as the tires get a little bit more into their window here and get a little bit of tire dead going on. Maybe it'll be a bit easier to pass these cars.
This is Jordan Pepper, one of two cars to receive those grid penalties prior to this race for some rough racing. The other one was the US Racetronics car that Spinelli is driving right now that we were talking about earlier. So far, Pepper unable to recover. He's running at the back of the pro class in 8th overall, but still a long way to go. On board with the South African driver, Jordan Pepper, teamed up with Misha Goikberg, who's shown some good pace this weekend. And he and Pepper, it looked like this might be the chance to break the sister car's stranglehold based on qualifying results, where Pepper, by just a fraction of a second, had the edge on the sister car and Caldarelli in qualifying for this race, but that penalty changed the equation.
It really did, and he's got some really fast drivers in front of him in terms of Robbie Foley, Giacomo Altoe, so it's not going to be easy to get the back of that sister machine up in front of him, but he knows he's got to make something happen here quick, otherwise Caldarelli's points lead is going to be insurmountable without some major issues for the car before the end of the season.
It's a bitter pill to swallow for Jordan Pepper, who started the season as Andrea's teammate. Part of the points haul that Andrea has that has him in this position, Jordan helped him earn, if you go back to the season opener.
Yeah, and obviously with Misha Goikberg, he's got pace, as we saw yesterday, a real good fighter and aggressive driver behind the wheel, but he doesn't have the level of experience of what Beretta has, who's essentially a Lamborghini Junior driver, for want of a better description. So you'd have to feel Caldarelli and Beretta, they're going to be tough to beat in this new class format where the pro class has to have a silver driver as part of your driver makeup. So a lot of work to do, but you know they're not going to give up on it. And I think after qualifying here yesterday, Jordan Pepper said, this is my chance. But then they got the grid penalty, and he's on the back foot once again.
Well, another story of perseverance and not giving up is this Racer's Edge Motorsports team, and they're off to a pretty good start here today, Amanda, after disappointment yesterday.
Sure thing, Ryan, and on that disappointment, Ashton, from your perspective of the incident yesterday, walk us through what happened from your viewpoint.
So my viewpoint, I had been hit previously by a BMW, and we were fighting for the lead. It's good hard racing, but unfortunately when that tap happened, we fell back several positions, and everybody was on a mission to get up the S's, and unfortunately I think a couple cars ahead dropped the wheel, and then everybody in front of me stood on their brake, and I had nowhere to go. Thankfully I got on the brake quickly, and we were able to just do some cosmetic damage, and our Racer's Edge guys just worked all night long. And I'm so thankful to Rick Ware Racing for lending us their hood. And, I'm so thankful for the team. They really did such an awesome job. And I kind of like the black. I think it looks good. And Mario did a great start. I'm really looking forward to getting into the car. I also want to say Happy Father's Day to my dad, and I wish you were here.
You come off such a dynamic performance in New Orleans, and I'm sure you wanted to capitalize that again yesterday. Now here today, you put your helmet back on. What goes through your mind?
Winning. That's all I want to do. I mean, this team's totally capable of doing that. And after yesterday being completely caught off guard with that incident and just being collected, we had a car to win yesterday, and I plan to do that today.
Thank you.
She's quite the racer, isn't she?
Yeah, not
really
intimidated.
impressive.
takes it all in her stride. She's been embedded with the Wayne Taylor Racing organization as well, and they're a team of winners. And it's all about that mental focus and putting behind you yesterday. Just got caught up in a bad scenario. She had a car that was potentially in winning its class yesterday. Was running in that second position, had that little bump with Chandler Hull. Not her fault. She was sitting there. Chandler made a little mistake, got it loose in turn 3, backed into her. Suddenly she shuffled back down the road. Big compression of the class cars in front of her, had nowhere to go. So lesson learned. I mean, you got to be looking forward a little bit, but that's just one of those concertina effects, and she got caught out.
Yeah, it's a great story, too. She came through the HPD GT3 Academy, which this Racer's Edge team and team owner John Baraki has had a big hand in helping to get off the ground, get started, and he runs the cars on behalf of Honda Performance Development in that academy. The idea being to identify young drivers with talent, although this year it's a little bit different the way they're structuring the academy. John was telling me they've got 2 younger drivers along the same lines as Ashton with big career aspirations, but also 2 drivers that you would categorize under the gentleman driver moniker, with an idea to cultivate those relationships. And keep in mind, HPD is in the business of selling these customer cars, and that could be an interesting revenue source for the future, but also a chance then for the younger drivers to get some sense of how these Pro-Am lineups work. If they're going to make it as pros, it's very likely they'll have a gentleman driver as a co-driver at some point along the way. And so kind of learning that process, that dynamic from a very early stage.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, a great concept that they introduced like 3 years ago. And the fact is that Mario was one of the instructors with the Academy last year working with Ashton, and now he drives alongside her. So wonderful concept brought about by HPD and all of their management team there alongside John Maraki and this Racer's Edge group. And it really provides the perfect platform, and as well as they've really developed this car to be more comfortable for the gentleman drivers, or AM drivers should we call them. So we've got several ladies in this field, but just making that car very comfortable with the Evo kit. Not quite as edgy that the pros can handle, but giving it the pace for everyone who'll drive that race car.
Very true. There's also a touring car component to the Academy for the first time this year, which is set to get underway very soon. But as we get closer to the restart, you talk about the Evo kit, this newest Evo for the Acura NSX that debuted recently and is debuted this year and is homologated through 2024. Upgraded engine intercoolers and spring rates, different suspension geometry adjustments, increased fluid tank sizes, a new wheel system for faster tire changes, all of these things just making the car easier to use from the driver as well as the team, a huge component in customer racing.
Yeah, for the crew as well. You want these teams to be able to basically work with the car a little bit easier, make the setup a little bit bigger window. Here we go, getting ready for his restart here. What will Farmbocker do? It looks like he's going early. This is the restart zone here through the final corner.
Yep, that was mentioned in the driver's meeting. Through the roller coaster section into hog pen. It's up to the race leader to dictate when they accelerate. No one can pass, though, before the start-finish line. They really want them single file up to that start-finish line, and that's how they are. Running 1, 2, 3, 4 now, single file through those first 4, 2 wide further back. Giacomo Altoe working on Andrea Caldarelli. Very close between those 2 Lamborghini factory drivers.
Yeah, big late move there by Altoe down to the inside with Caldarelli. Caldarelli tried to respond. The door was closed, almost getting into the back of that white Lamborghini right in front of him. Robbie Foley giving chase. There's Caldarelli looking to try and get back at him.
Tried to take that spot back, but couldn't. Has to settle in line, and that now has brought that Lamborghini back into the clutches of Robbie Foley. That becomes a battle for class position. This is for the 2nd and 3rd spots in Pro.
It is, and you got Pepper right behind this Turner Motorsports BMW. Look at the high-speed chase up through the climbing S's here. About 150 miles an hour as they crest that peak.
And then the plunge down the hill coming up shortly. First, though, the run down to Oak Tree. This is the highest point in elevation on the circuit. Then Madison Avenue, the straightaway that is anything but straight with the big hill climb in the middle, leading to the roller coaster section.
Yeah, and you know, for Altoe, he's trying to make a statement here. Caldarelli is recognized as one of the top GT pilots in the world, one of the top Lamborghini factory pilots. Altoe said, here's my opportunity, I want to make it stick. Great move.
And these 2 were teammates in the opening round of the season. Not co-drivers, but teammates under the K-Pax Racing tent. The change to how the classes are constructed with driver ratings in mind, subsequent to Sonoma has resulted in a shift in which teams drivers are assigned to from the Lamborghini stables. So Altoe finds himself back at TR3 where he ran last season most of the races. In fact, had to miss this one last year if memory serves. And but he's back with that team, which has been very strong in since making this switch over to Lamborghini equipment last year.
Basically a straight trade, right, on the TR3 and K-Pax driver lineups between Altoe and Beretta to match the driver gradings that were necessary.
Advantage, though, to Altoe. Young Italian leading his slightly older counterpart and compatriot, Andrea Caldarelli, who is as quick as they come in one of these GT3 Lamborghinis.
But super smart. Certainly Altoe made a brave move down to the inside. Caldarelli tried to respond, realized he was going to get into the back of that fellow Lamborghini driver, and had to give it up. Got on the brakes a little bit, got up over the curves, but avoided contact. Lots of time in this race still to try and readdress the situation.
Message from race control. Starting driver of car 93, report to race director after the session. That's Mario Farmbocker in the race leading car, so keep that one circled. In the meantime, let's hear from our pro class leading car, third overall, US Racetronics. Amanda is there.
Ryan, I did get a quick update from Stephen Agakani on his hand. No bandage today. He's not sure how it's going to feel once he gets behind the wheel, but there is no secret that this team has faced just some insane troubles at every event that we've had here this season. Now this race, maybe you've got it behind you already, but from the driver's standpoint, the mental side of staying tough, how do you do it?
I mean, it's obviously very hard to, have such a rough and terrible race, the day before and just move on from it. You have to be prepared for the next day. It's something that we just have to deal with in this series, no matter, what day it is, what year it is. It happens in almost any single sport. The easiest way that I would go about it is just take some time, the night of, if we were to have a bad race, just decompress, review over anything that were to happen and just kind of go over what could we improve for next time. And kind of as my amazing coach Kevin Madsen would say, he would kind of tuck it into the back pocket in the filing cabinet and just keep it there for next time. But we obviously it's a new day, car was fixed, so there's no issues. Yesterday's behind us, can't do anything about it now, so we just need to come out here and drive and do what we can. And also happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there as well,
including your very own father, Armick. You get to share this with him today. Any message you want to send to him?
Just, an absolute huge thank you to him for giving the opportunity to come out here and, especially all the sponsors. But if it wasn't for him, I would not have been starting, getting into racing or doing anything. So, it's huge hats off to him.
Stephen Agakani, you heard Amanda reference the bandage. Racing through some pain, suffered a burn on his hand after he touched a portion of one of the tire ovens in the pit lane earlier in the weekend, and those things are very, very hot. Suffered a burn to one of his hands, and racing through that discomfort was very quick in his stint yesterday. We expect to see him tough through that discomfort a little bit later on today. Currently leading in the pro class.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Fanatec, AWS, and CrowdStrike.
Continuing to lead, just about 20 minutes into race 2 of the weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Farmbocker setting the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race the last time by, but you look at timing and scoring, Calvin, all but 2 cars still on track set their personal fastest laps on that last tour of the circuit.
We've seen this year these Pirelli tires just seem to, as the fuel load burns off a little bit, they've still got the performance to keep lowering those lap times. So that's really a joy for the drivers to recognize that you're not going to hit that peak and suddenly the lap times are going to fall away from you. So allows you to run really hard. We did get that notice that Farmbocker's got to report to the stewards after this race. Not sure if they felt he manipulated the initial start a little bit or something like that, but certainly not enough to draw a penalty. Maybe they just want to have a little chat with him. Say for next time, don't be doing that. We'll have to wait and see.
Taking a look through the field, this is the lone AM class car right there in the center, that Ferrari. Onofrio Triarsi currently driving in the family-run team. Triarsi Competizione. Their competition throughout the course of the season unfortunately caught up in that incident at the beginning of race 1 yesterday. And JC Sada and Conrad Grunwald were unable to participate in the second race today due to the substantial damage that their chassis sustained in that accident. But it's been a nice clean run for this Triarsi team in its first year of full season GT3 racing.
Yes, we saw them burst on the scene at Sebring last year with immediate speed and won the first race. They had an incident starting race 2, but nonetheless displayed that they do have potential and come back with this group. They've bolstered their engineering staff, got Ryan Dial in the Pro-Am entry. He's a great leader for this group as we go full course yellow.
Full course yellow for the second time in this race, and Michael Cooper has found the tire berries. It looks like Jason Harward is also involved onto the left-hand side of the screen.
Snow, I think, is in the car right now, but
Excuse
those two
me,
are
you're right.
certainly running close together. I think that's coming into the roller coaster as well.
And those two are running towards the back of the pack in 15th and 16th overall. A lot of debris on the racetrack as well, so hopefully the teams are on the radio letting their drivers know that as they approach the accident scene.
Yeah, been a tough weekend for real time. On the back foot a little bit this season. Just need to really get some test days under their belt. Had an incident earlier in the weekend, so they lost valuable track time then. Top 5 finish must have felt like a podium or a win yesterday, but not the result they're looking for today with Michael buried in the tires.
Disappointing for the combination that team to win in Pro-Am, one of the races 1 year ago. Full course yellow for the second time in this race due to an incident involving Madison Snow and Michael Cooper, who were fighting for 10th and 11th in the Pro-Am class, 15th and 16th overall. Madison Snow we see walking from his Zelus Motorsports Lamborghini to the medical car. Michael Cooper had the door open on his real-time Acura as well.
I think he's out as well.
Okay.
He looked like he's walking gingerly. I think it was Madison in the lighter colored fire suit to the left of the screen, and Michael was walking away as well.
That's good to see. It looked like a pretty heavy impact into the tire bundles in a fast part of the racetrack. We talk about it a lot. This track, a small mistake gets compounded quickly.
It really does, and it's high consequences, big commitment here. I love this circuit. The drivers love to drive it. It takes, you know, you've really got up on the wheel, but it's a fine edge, and if you cross that, and if you start to get any argy-bargy going into some of these brake zones, you can see the consequences there.
This will once again bunch up this field, and any advantage gained is erased. And we've seen some big moves on the restart so far. Altoe on that restart, jumping up a spot on Caldarelli, and then on the initial start, some big, bold moves too. And we'll have another restart coming up here before too long.
Well, you know, Caldarelli would like to return the favor on Giacomo in front of him, so he's going to have that opportunity here in a short while.
Hour and 6 minutes yet to go. Running behind the safety car at Virginia International Raceway, Mario Farmbocker, Loris Spinelli, and Onofrio Triarsi, the class leaders.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Pirelli, Rebellion, and VP Racing Fuels.
Just past the quarter distance mark, or time mark, I should say, in this 90-minute race. Safety car is out, having once again harnessed Mario Farmbocker and Colin Brown, who run 1-2 overall and in Pro-Am. Colin Brown recently snagging the Crown Strike fastest lap of the race away from Mario Farmbocker by the narrowest of margins, what, 13 thousandths of a second. That's how tight these top two have been.
They're really tight, but the top 6 or 7 cars in this field have been running lap times within 3 or 4 tenths of one another. So there's a lot of pace in this field, and as we've seen many times this year, we mentioned before, these Pirellis seem to get quicker and quicker as the fuel burns off and the car gets a little bit lighter. Then there'll be a reset during the mandatory pit stop window between the 40 and 50-minute mark of this race. You have to change all 4 tires. Typically, though, the strategy seems to be that the newer set of tires with their tire allocation is being used right now. and the guys who will get in next will be on the backup set, a used set of tires, so maybe not quite as quick.
That said, that pit window, that could be the crucial spot, especially when you look at how tight together these cars have been running, how you time that stop, what kind of traffic you find when you come in for your in-lap, when you go out on your out-lap. That is such a huge component of these races.
I think it is, and I think this will actually play into K-Pax's hand a little bit with the one car, because Beretta is very quick amongst the second part of this race. He'll be one of the fastest drivers out there. So do they elect to get him early and then take advantage here? But we'll have to wait and see. Lots to play out yet.
Yeah, certainly so. Again, behind the safety car here due to the incident involving Michael Cooper and Madison Snow. Corey Lewis also out of this race. The team reported that Corey on the radio speculated it might have been an ABS issue. We did see a strange puff of smoke prior to his incident back on the first lap of the race, but we're not sure, and I don't think the team will know until they do a thorough diagnosis of that race car. But unfortunately, Corey Lewis and Jeff Burton will take no further part in today's activities, and will come home 12th in Pro-Am, 17th overall. On board here with Jordan Pepper, who tends to be dynamite on starts and restarts. Can't wait to see what he can do.
You had a win here last year with Caldarelli. Winwood Racing, you are not on site here this weekend due to basically a car shortage. They've been through the wars a little bit, running multiple championships now, but they had the win as well last year. So have to wait and see what Pepper can do here. He really needs to take advantage on this restart, see if he can get around Robbie Foley. But Foley's doing a great job aboard that Turner Motorsports number 96.
In control of the field as he has been since the drop of the green flag. That's Mario Farmbocker leading the way behind the safety car. Still under full course yellow conditions at VIR. Mario Farnbacher leading the way, but we will see Ashton Harrison take over that car inside of the mandatory pit window, which is coming up relatively soon. These are the two cars that brought out this full course yellow, Michael Cooper and Madison Snow. Evidently Madison on the radio indicating he felt like he was hit. We don't have visual proof of that one way or the other, but that was the report. And with more from the pit lane, let's go to Amanda.
Well, we might have an update on why that might have happened. Aaron Vogel relaying that Michael Cooper told her that it seemed like he just lost all of his brakes there as he went into the back of Madison Snow. And Aaron, I just want to summarize this weekend with you. You know more than anyone how trying it's been. You guys get the P finish yesterday in class. How will you define this journey to VIR for yourself?
Yeah, it's been a really kind of an unfortunate weekend. I know our results yesterday maybe didn't look that way. I mean, we felt very, very fortunate to have that P5 yesterday. Unfortunately, it was kind of came on the backs of some other people having misfortunes, and then here we are today with this. I mean, the first we heard of it was Michael coming over the radio, sounding quite distressed, and that he'd lost the brakes. But we saw him get out of the car on the TV, and he said he's all right. So just. Yeah, it's unfortunate to end our weekend this way. I really love this track, and we really love racing here. So it's been a really tough weekend for us.
Let's talk about this a little bit, why you love this track. You had a historic win last year for women in the SRO organization. Going back to that moment of achievement, what will you remember from that?
I mean, that was incredible, and you know, I was so happy to do it at VIR. It's historically been one of my favorite racetracks, and so I mean, you know, we'll always have that, but it is disappointing to come back from a weekend like that to a weekend like this. So, you know, but that's racing sometimes.
We'll see you at the Glen.
It was a historic win last year, race one of the weekend, where Michael Cooper and Aaron Vogel picked up a class win, first win for a female driver in what is now the SRO Championships in a GT3 car, and has since been matched again by Ashton Harrison a couple of times, but not the weekend that they were hoping for, returning to the site of that big win from a year ago for that driver pairing of Cooper and Vogel this year.
Yeah, and to Aaron's perspective on the incident with Michael behind the wheel, you are shaken up. You're touching about 160 miles an hour when you get into that brake zone, and if you suddenly don't have any brakes and you've got a car right in front of you like you had with Madison Snow, that's a scary, scary moment. So I think what we saw there with the drivers walking away, maybe Michael was further away from his race car, maybe he went over to tell Madison, I lost my brakes, and just put it all in perspective for him.
That's got to be startling, too, if you're in Madison's spot, because you're driving along. It's not a place you expect somebody to make a move on you. You certainly don't expect the contact from a driver the caliber of Michael Cooper either.
No, they both have a ton of experience, and I'm sure they've been through similar scenarios before, but nonetheless, it comes as quite the shock, and just a shame to see two really competitive cars out of the action here this afternoon on top of the cars that we have missing since yesterday.
Yep, certainly so. There is an incident under review, and I think it's really this one we're talking about with the real-time car and the Zaluz car under review for this incident. Stewards will take a look at that, and they'll gather all the data, especially in regards to whether or not the brakes were a problem there for Michael Cooper. So anyway, we'll let you know if any further information comes from the stewards' room as far as that goes. Under 1 hour to go as the cleanup continues in race 2 of the weekend at Virginia International Raceway.
Today's coverage is brought to you by ASUS Republic of Gamers, Motul, Stay Frosty, and 511.
Closing in on the mandatory pit window now, Calvin. It might be time to talk some strategy as you look at this. 2 Pro-Am cars with their pros in at the front of this field. We expect them to run as deep into that window as they can. Where it gets interesting is the Pro Class cars that are mired in traffic right now. You shouldn't see as big of a delta between their 2 drivers' ultimate pace. Might they be able to make a play strategically to try and pick up some spots in the pits?
Possibly, but with the new Pro ranking, essentially it's the higher graded driver that has started the race here today as well, because you got silver rated drivers going in next. So certainly for Caldarelli, I think Beretta maybe have the edge in terms of speed over the other drivers in that category. But again, do you want to give up Caldarelli's pace to give it with Beretta's? They're probably closer matched than any of the driver lineups out there. So I expect most of these cars actually to go deep into this pit stop window before they hit pit lane.
I would think you'd have to consider it, though, if you're Turner, for instance, especially if K-Pax isn't doing it. I'm not sure they're going to get by the K-Pax car on pace, right? So don't you need to roll the dice, do something different than the car you're racing?
Well, if you come in, as we call the undercut, you're coming in, you're putting Michael Dinan out there, admittedly on fresh tires out of the oven, but is he going to match the pace of a Caldarelli? So are you going to lose time or are you going to gain time? It's a tough one. I think it's pretty much a wash in terms of who may have the advantage.
On the other element of it, too, the undercut might not be so valuable because we don't see the Pirellis dropping off a whole lot. So the delta between a fresh set of tires right out of the ovens, not as big of a gap, right, to the used sets we're seeing on the cars now.
Yeah, particularly with the interruption in the action as well. It's going to save a little bit of the sweetness in these tires right now, chance to cool down. So we've been seeing the lap times get quicker and quicker. It seems like every lap we're cutting new fast laps, so that's a great point.
What do these heat cycles do to these tires?
I think when they're staying on the race car, not a lot. I mean, if you take them off the car and they sit overnight, certainly there's a factor there, but I don't think it's going to make a big difference right now. The real key is prepping these tires for the restart. When you're running around under slow speeds like this behind the safety car, those tires are like snowballs. They pick up all of that debris around this side of the racetrack.
All these things that the teams and drivers need to factor in as we get closer to the restart and the pit window. On board with the race leader, Mario Farmbocker, but his time in the car is due to come to a close fairly soon. We're just over 6 minutes away from the mandatory pit window opening, assuming this caution is cleared. But it does look like there is some barrier repair still underway. So what that might do is lead to the pit window being delayed, right, so that it doesn't open basically under safety car conditions.
Yeah, they can certainly bump that. I think they'd like to get at least a couple of laps of green flag racing and then open up the window, so we'll have to wait and see what the steward's decision may be.
Track crew at VIR this weekend, it's been a busy one for them. Incidents in several series, but the good news is the safety equipment has done its job. Despite some rather scary appearing incidents, we've not had any driver injuries to note. at this point, and the track crew's done a great job staying on top of all of that, the safety crew as well, and making sure the track is ready and safe to race on as we resume. This is Laura Spinelli, the big mover at the start of the race, and I'm curious to see how they choose to play the strategy as well, because yes, Spinelli is quicker than Agakani, but Steven's been fast this weekend.
He really has, so he may have the pace, but again, it's all about track position, right? So even if you get someone who's going to be a little bit stronger in the second half of the race, unless you give him the track position, he's still got that work to do. But now you can see that cars really weaving around here a lot, trying to clean off those front tires in particular. Here we see Charlie Locke. This is his home race, lives just down the road. And he's got his son-in-law behind the wheel right now. Bit of a quiet weekend for these guys. Swept the opening weekend at Sonoma, struggled at NOLA, and kind of been there or thereabouts, not really knocking on the door for a win here this weekend.
Did finish second yesterday, but you're right. They were some 6 seconds adrift of the ultimate race winners in Pro-Am. Triarsi Competizione, Justin Wetherill, and Ryan Dial teaming up for that win. And they're right there in this picture, too, with Dial running up there towards the front, currently third in Pro-Am. Right now we see Jan Halen a bit further down the order than you would expect. He is back in 10th overall, 6th in Pro-Am with the M-Class Triarsi car right behind them. Race Vision powered by AWS, overall top speeds. This is a fast old racetrack in Jordan Pepper with a 166.5. Trap speed. Goes a long way to illustrating just how quick it is.
Yeah, and there you see Michael Kuber at 165 plus, so that would have been the speed that he was approaching right as he lost his brakes there up into that brake zone for the roller coaster. So that's why it's a sketchy moment. Looked like both drivers are fine and just damage to the race cars. They'll dust those off and get those fixed up for the next round of the championship at Watkins Glen. But you talk about Jan Halen sitting there 10th overall, 6th in class, but it's tough to make progress when you look at the quality of this field with Dirk Mueller in front of him, then Jordan Pep, then Robbie Foley, then Caldarelli. I mean, they are not easy pickings, and that's why he's basically sitting there, not making a lot of headway.
Word from race control, the pit window will be delayed by 5 minutes, so it now will open with 45 minutes remaining. Normally it opens at the 50 minutes remaining mark and will extend from 10 minutes beyond that. So 45 minutes left to 35 minutes left is the pit window we expect to see. And the other word is we are closing in on having this track ready for a restart, and it could be imminent. So we'll have to keep a close eye on it, but you can see activity behind the safety car picking up. Pretty aggressive maneuvers here for Mario Farmbocker to clean those tires, build the tire pressures, get that car ready to go.
Yeah, and if we get going here quickly, you've probably got about 2 or 3 laps green flag running before that pit stop window opens. But again, we anticipate seeing a lot of these pro drivers behind the wheel now going deep into that 10-minute window, which means it's very much a sprint to the finish for the second drivers in the lineup here this weekend. Potentially only 35 minutes to go to see the checkered flag.
It's been a lengthy full course caution, nearly 18 minutes at this stage. But it's about to come to an end. The lights are off. The safety car pulls away. That's the note we just passed along. Pit window will be delayed 5 minutes. And very soon we'll be back to green. Safety car starting to accelerate down Madison Avenue, turning the field back over into the capable hands of Mario Farnbacher, who has led this race from the drop of the green in a car that, if you missed it, has been repaired after a heavy, heavy crash yesterday with Ashton Harrison driving. No fault of her own, it's worth stressing, but nowhere to go. And that car has been repaired with some spare parts from the Rick Ware Racing Shop just up the road in North Carolina. Big thanks from the team at Racer's Edge to Rick Ware Racing and the folks at HPD for finding a way to get this car on track. It was scheduled to start from pole, and they made sure it did.
Here we go. Everyone getting ready to charge here. This little 10-minute sprint potentially for these starting drivers here this afternoon.
At dash to the opening moments of the pit window coming up. Once again, Farnbacher starting to pick up the pace through Hogpen, accelerating onto the front straightaway, as is his right as the race leader. The fight is on for second overall. Colin Brown has it. Laura Spinelli trying to take it away. That's Pro-Am in second and a Pro Class car in third.
Yeah, it's all about how you prep these tires for that restart. Do you have the grip when you need it here on this opening restart lap? Caldarelli there, tight behind Altoe, the white and black Lamborghinis. Here we see Spinelli putting the pressure on Colin Brown.
And pressure from Pepper on Robbie Foley, too. That's further back. That's for third in the Pro Class, 7th overall.
Looks like a nice, clean restart here. Everyone getting back into a rhythm. Farmbacker's been immense out front with that repaired race car.
That he has, but Brown has the fastest lap of the race to this point. However, he's not been able to keep pace with Farmbocker on this restart. Instead, he's looking in his mirrors because Loris Spinelli, the Pro Class leader from US Racetronics, is right there looking for one more car to put as a gap, as a buffer between himself and the next closest car in Pro, Andrea Caldarelli, who's back in 6th overall.
Certainly a high-speed chase there up through the S's. Colin Brown a little bit wide of that apex through turn 11, gets it back online. Nice clean exit there, trying to chase down that Acura in front of him.
Field starting to snake down.
Here we go. Here's a big run by Altoe on Ryan Dial.
Two Italian supercars doing battle with VIR. Into the mix, Andrea Caldarelli making it 3 wide into the entrance of the roller coaster. Altoe prudently gives ground.
That was beautifully judged there by Caldarelli. Could see those cars going side by side, picked up a monster draft in the black Lamborghini and got that track position by the time they got to the brake zone.
And allows Dial to hang on to that spot. It looked like third place in class was under threat from Altoe, but Caldarelli, opportunistic, grabs that spot away. Robbie Foley looking stout in the Turner BMW, the Liquid Moly sponsored car, right there behind Altoe. Pepper forced to go defensive. The car 63, that's Dirk Muller, podium a day ago, looking very strong right behind.
Yes, a great little battle there between he and Jan Halen. Sellers and Oberlin have a little good battle just a bit further back.
Aboard with Pepper, we'll watch and listen through left hook. Now the beginning of the snake.
Like a slalom through here, hitting the gates, clipping these curbs, riding the curbs. You need the compliancy. Downforce kicking in now as we get to some really extreme speeds here. Flat out through this section. 150 miles an hour right there as you touch the brakes. Quite the ride. Ribbon of asphalt, not to be matched, I don't feel, anywhere in North America. Just incredible.
That's the famed oak tree corner. For so many years, the giant oak tree standing vigil over that part of the racetrack. Now the run down Madison Avenue towards the part of the track called Roller Coaster. About 90 to 100 feet of elevation change about to happen now.
Robbie Foley always gives a little light tap to the brakes, make sure the brake pressure is there when he gets to these high-speed brake zones. Typically you'll see that a little bit more with those brake lights flashing on with the left foot breaker, so you just moderate your speed there momentarily without giving up the gas pedal.
47 minutes to go, closing in on the pit stops. K-Pac's getting ready to go, the crew limbering up. Pit window delayed due to the timing of that most recent full course yellow. No changes at the front. Farnbacker's lead now 7/10 of a second, 4/10 back. That's where you find the Pro Class leader and Loris Spinelli in that US Racetronics Mercedes. Ryan Dial, who had a good starting position on the front row overall, has slipped back somewhat in this race, but still holds 4th overall and 3rd in Pro-Am. That's the car that won Pro-Am yesterday.
You know, I don't think these leaders are going to have an opportunity here. Looking at the clock right now, it's not going to be inside that 45-minute mark in this race to hit pit lane. Maybe someone deeper in the pack could take an early opportunity to hit pit lane, but we do expect these pros to stay in the car. Farmbocker would love to get a little bit of a gap here for the team to work with on their pit stop, and Ashton Harrison to maybe have that track position when she jumps inside the car.
Report from the pit lane. K-Pax might be getting ready for Andrea Caldarelli, the car that you highlighted as the most likely to attempt the undercut strategy.
The other thing is, if you do get a yellow, we saw it earlier today in the GT4 Sprint X competition, it can really backfire on if you do stay out. So maybe for that #1 squad, they feel, you know what, we don't have the pace to get to the front. Let's roll the dice a little bit with strategy. Have to wait another lap, though.
That car undefeated on the season, and you're right, the clock not down to 45 minutes yet. Doesn't look like anyone's going to get the chance to come in, so the pit lane will open for everyone the next time around.
And I think the key for the K-Pax team, by maybe doing that slight undercut on everyone else, is believing that with Beretta with fresh, new Pirelli tires out of the ovens, maybe able to match the pace that's on the track right now. Then it'll be the outlaps for the second drivers, how they match up to him.
It also gets that car out of traffic. And as you mentioned, protects against another yellow flag coming out. Don Halen, who 1 week ago was just finishing up, or had just finished up, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Makes the trip back stateside, racing alongside his father-in-law on Father's Day.
What a year he had last year. Won a couple of championships, also won the Porsche Cup, which is a points-based system globally. It's weighted depending on the category that you're running in, but he beat everyone else globally who were running a Porsche last year.
Yeah,
factory drivers not included.
Yeah, top Porsche privateer, exactly, is what that Porsche Cup goes to. Very prestigious award. Won this championship in Pro-Am, won a GT4 championship in IMSA. And a lot of success with this Wright Motorsports team.
It's a prestigious award, and you get a brand new race car, which is yours to keep. It's not a loaner for a year, so that's a pretty tasty prize.
Now we wait and see. The pit window is open. Who will be an early taker with 43 minutes to go? And US Racetronics makes the call. Spinelli pitting out of 3rd overall. K-Pax makes the call. Pepper will turn that car over to Goikberg, so it's the other K-Pax car that is the early caller.
A little bit of a surprise. And again, if there was a yellow or anything happened on the racetrack right now, it'd really pay benefits for these two teams that are pitting. They just need to execute this pit stop. Nice and clean. Good driver change. Get all the fuel on board.
This is where it's all gone awry for US Racetronics 2 times this season on the Sunday race. Leading going into the pit stop, and a problem derails their day. Like you say, just a clean run. That's all they're looking for. K-Pax Racing, the masters of this new race format with the pit stop that came in a couple of years ago. They've been so good with their pit work ever since it was first introduced.
Yeah, well, they've got so much experience in endurance racing, you'd expect them to have the edge. Zagakani is released.
66 seconds, the required time spent on the pit lane. Agakani gets out first. Goikberg looks like having trouble getting that engine fired up. He is released, but well behind Agakani, and now the pressure is on the young driver from Los Angeles.
Perfect stop for US Racetronics there, just underneath the minimum. They can use that 1 second delta. 65.956. 66 was the number. That is perfection.
Yeah, really great job by US Racetronics. And now it's up to Agakani to get the lap time to make the strategy work.
To be expected. Farmbocker stays out. He's got monster pace right now. He wants to utilize that. So I think we see Caldarelli in the backdrop there coming in as well.
Kaylee Beretta standing by. He'll jump in. That K-Pax car that has won every race so far this season. 2 different driver lineups. It started off with Caldarelli and Pepper together. Beretta jumped in at NOLA Motorsports Park and looked right at home. He's undefeated since he joined the team, winning twice at NOLA, once here yesterday, trying to make it 4 for 4 and 6 for 6 for the team overall.
Yeah, and these are like qualifying laps now for the drivers that are out there on the racetrack. Ryan Dial just set a new fastest lap at 1:44.327, the 3rd place car on the racetrack. And this is where you can make the difference. This is hammer time.
Right. These pro drivers in the Pro-Am lineups have to push, push, push right here. Get that lap time while some of their competitors are in the pit lane standing still. And that can then help protect their Am drivers when they get in.
Look at these mechanics. They're about 50 pounds, those rear wheel and tires in weight, and they just throw them around like they're nothing.
Nice.
Got a good clean stop there. Let's see how it compares. 67.2. 65.7, so they get a bit deeper into that 1 second joker. A great start for our championship leaders.
And look at that. They emerge out in front of the US Racetronics car, which had held the lead prior to the pit stop. So Caldarelli going that one extra lap appears to have made the difference.
Yeah, and that was the concern by putting Agakani out there. Can he match the in-lap for Caldarelli? And that wasn't the case, it looks like, because the pit stops were pretty evenly matched. Only 2 tenths between the pit stops, so it's all about the in and out laps for the drivers.
So K-Pax now, at least in this little battle, finds themselves out in front. US Racetronics second, the second of the K-Pax cars third, but we're still waiting on most of the field to come to the pit lane. Just 3 have made pit stops so far, all from the Pro class, no surprise there.
And it is go time for everyone. If you're on your final laps of the day, you're trying to get the hammer down for these drivers on new, fresh tires. They're trying to get the most out of this opportunity with clear air in front of them. But look at DL. He is flying right now.
New CrowdStrike fastest lap, and now he has caught Colin Brown as well. This is 1, 2, and 3 on the road, as well as first, second, and third in Pro-Am. Ryan Dial, hungry to get back on the top step of the podium, tasting victory for the first time this season. Just yesterday, has the fastest lap so far, a 1:44.318.
These two drivers know each other well, competed with the same team last year, DXDT. Both drivers have moved on. I'm not sure how the chemistry and the love was between these two guys last year. You want to be top dog within a team, so you know that Ryan would love to somehow get around that Mercedes before he hits pit lane.
That's the goal. Farmbocker continuing to lap at a good clip right now, too. Giacomo Altoe, clear of the traffic, running in fourth, turning in some good laps. His personal best lap came that last time around, so he's pushing hard.
As did Foley, as did Mueller. They're all matching each other right now. These Pirellis, just phenomenal performance late in the stint.
And the one wild card in the Pro class battle is the Turner car. They're the ones doing it a little different than everyone else. Foley right now, relatively clear track to work with. Can he use that to capitalize? We'll see where he falls in line when he ultimately makes the stop, but it looks like they're going to be the last team to do that here in the cycle.
Yeah, I don't think they can squeeze another one. That would be super tight. If you have any delay on that in lap, that would really be a curveball for you with the drive-through penalty.
2 more takers to the pit lane now. DXDT Racing, Brian Sellers, he comes into the pits. Scott Smithson will be the second driver in that Mercedes. Bill Auberlin also pitting. He'll be turning that car over as well here in this pit sequence. The Bimmer World team, Chandler Hull will take over driving duties.
Had a great run here yesterday. Chandler Hull had the Pro-Am pole, had the lead, and had that little slip on a restart heading up into turn 3, got turned around, and that was really the domino effect for that whole consequence and that incident up through the high-speed S's. Had 3 podiums so far this year out of the first 5 races.
But only a 7th yesterday. They'll be looking to put that behind them. Auberlin's first stint, a pretty good one.
This is a team that's getting used to doing these pit stops. Been stalwarts of SRO competition, but not where you're doing wheel changes like you have to do here.
Able to beat the DXDT Racing car off of the pit lane. 66.4 seconds for Auberlin and company. That's a good stop. I think it will leapfrog them then ahead of DXDT. A slightly slower stop at 68.2.
Let's look at the clock. We're looking at lap times in the 144 range. Is anyone going to stretch it 1 lap deeper? I doubt it. Oh, you're really rolling the dice there. You can see the number there. You'd be right at that number as you hit pit lane. You have to come now.
Well, did Dial stay out? He did.
I'm not sure he's going to make it back.
That's interesting.
You don't have to have completed the service, but you need to be in. That is going to be super tight. You got a trip pit lane entry before that 35-minute mark now.
Well, there can be no mistakes now. He has to be picture perfect and make it into the pit lane, and it's going to be by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah, I looked when Farmbocker was in. It looked like he'd had to do a 142-second lap, and Dial was behind him. This could really trip the Triazzi team up here today.
Now, keep in mind, this is a team that's still very new to racing at this level. Tons of Ferrari Challenge experience, but only 2 GT3 races in SRO competition, plus an Enduro. Under a different sanctioning body at Sebring last year. That's it on their resume prior to this season, so we'll see what happens. This is Racer's Edge. Mario Farnbacher's controlled this race from the start. Started on pole. Ashton Harrison leaving the pits out ahead of George Kurtz now in the Riley Motorsports CrowdStrike Mercedes. Checking the times.
Great stops by both of those groups underneath the minimum, but use the 1 second joker. 65.6 versus 65.9. The real race right now is for Ryan Dial to get back to pit lane with only 20 seconds to go.
This is for position in the pro class as well, side by side with Agakani and Foley. US Racetronics and Turner finding themselves again, but for now it looks like Dynan's able to stay out in front. As far as Dial goes, he needs to be in the pit lane now.
Oh, Agakani forces the issue.
Pit window closed.
No, I don't think they made it. I do not think they made it. Based on where the leader was at, I could not see how that math was going to work out.
Does not look like it's going to. Oof. That is frustrating for the winners yesterday.
So Agakani make that move into turn 4, full position on Michael Dynan.
Ashton Harrison's first laps at speed since her heavy accident just 1 day ago in the Pro-Am leading car for Racer's Edge Motorsports. Race 2 of the weekend at VIR. On board with Ashton Harrison, and we'll know very soon how all of this will shake out. Frank Gannett in Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin now has a couple front runners tucked in behind him. This is Misha Goikber taking a peek to his inside, and he'll be later on the brakes side by side, and they make it through somehow. Scott Smithson not quite so lucky. He's stuck behind the Aston.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a boost in performance here this weekend for that Ian Lacey Racing Group with this Aston Martin. Had Roman DeAngelis do some testing with the group, kind of point them in the right direction. Sometimes not just making improvements, but telling you, don't go in that direction. This is what I know works with this race car. It's a ton of experience.
So the way it has sorted out, Ashton Harrison leads overall. George Kurtz is second. Michele Beretta now is third, but leading in Pro-Am. Agakani has gotten around Michael Dynan in the fight for second in Pro. And then you finally find Charlie Luck down in sixth overall, third in Pro-Am. Mario Farmbacher, his day is done. Their race now rests in the hands of Ashton Harrison, who leads it overall for the second time this season. This is a similar situation that happened back at NOLA Motorsports Park earlier in the year. George Kurtz runs second overall, and he's got the Pro Class leader right on his heels.
Yeah, Beretta there being very patient, filled back onto the inside, so the K-Pax team really focused on the Pro Class in terms of their strategy with that pit stop. They've got that track position, so Caldarelli is on for his 6th consecutive win here this year, and I think I'll make it, what, 11 consecutive dating back to last year?
I think that's right. I have to go back through and do the math again after yesterday, but keep an eye on Stephen Agakani. He's keeping pace with the Pro Class leader, Michele Beretta, right now. He was held up somewhat by the Turner car as it was leaving the pits. He's made it past that car now, and especially with Beretta stuck in traffic a little bit, that's bringing the Mercedes into the mix.
Yeah, George has been up on the wheel this weekend, had a couple of GTA victories, and is running really strong.
31 minutes and change to go, and it's K-Pax leading in Pro. Change in position for second overall. That is Michele Beretta coming through on George Kurtz, not for class position. Kurtz is the second placed car in Pro-Am, now dropping back to third on the road, but crucially, Calvin, it's now the fly in the ointment here for US Racetronics. Stephen Agakani trying to make quick work of him, and he does, but with a little cooperation from Kurtz.
Loves that move, doesn't he? Kind of cut and pasted it a few times here this weekend. His total commitment. The other driver turns in, is going to have dire consequences, but he made it stick.
Well, Agakani saw his chances of a race win evaporating if he did not make that move, because the man he's chasing is right up ahead in that Darth Vader-esque Lamborghini from K-Pax Racing. Michele Beretta leading in class, and now has his sights set on Ashton Harrison for the overall lead as well.
Yeah, I think this battle between Agakani and Beretta could be a good one. I think they got very similar pace.
It's all hands and elbows in the cockpit for Agakani. We got a great shot, and thanks to Steven for wearing the white gloves. You could see him flashing around through that windscreen there in Oak Tree. It was not a steady ride. He is pushing this car for all it's worth.
See that little flutter on the Mercedes-AMG hoods here down these high-speed straightaways here, touching about 165. They hit the brakes and arrest the speed to plunge down the hill here, the roller coaster. Really a fine line in terms of placing the car here, not using too much curve, not bouncing across the road. Keeping it all together. Dynan doing a nice job here as he's now fully up to speed.
And settled into the third spot. Does not look like that undercut worked for the number 3 K-Pax car. Misha Goikberg has lost ground relative to the rest of the pro class. He's mired all the way back in 10th overall.
Yeah, I didn't really see the undercut having a big effect here today in terms of an advantage anyway. So certainly the 93 team did it right. Perfect execution on the pit stop. They needed that. They got Harrison that track position, clean air up ahead. She's just got to factor in when Beretta gets to her, how hard does she want to fight for that overall win as well as the class win. Her real focus should be on George Kurtz and the CrowdStrike entry, sitting 4th on the road right now.
This is the car that won in Pro-Am yesterday. It looked like they would be in contention again today, but Amanda, so close, but yet so far with the pit lane window closing.
Well, the first words from Ryan Dial was from hero to zero. And guys, to add to it, the AM car did not make it into the pits before the window closed as well. So Triari's was just absolutely the faces of disgust here, truly, with the team. But Ryan, walk us through that last lap. I know in your communication, the team thought you had it. How do you digest what has happened here?
You know, it happens. And we obviously tried to get that one extra lap, which would have probably leapfrogged us in front of the 04 and the 93. So, you know, you don't come here to finish third, you come here to win. And, you know, I think we went for the gamble. It didn't pay off today, and that's life, you know. I'm sure if we looked at it again, if we thought it was as close as it was, we wouldn't do it. But I think we thought we had it covered. So, positives from the weekend. We still won yesterday, so we got a lot to smile about this weekend and come back stronger the next one.
You'll inevitably talk to Justin Witherell after the race about all of this. How do you think that conversation will go?
It'll be fine. I mean, Justin's a pretty level-headed guy. You know, he's the first one probably that would tell us to go for the win. Same as the start. I could have done the safe option, or I was going to send it around the outside, which didn't work. So, like I said, we came here to win. This is a building year for this team, and we got a lot to be proud of this weekend. So, you know, you learn from mistakes, you put your head up, and you go forward.
Thank you, Ryan.
Basically, it's hard to monitor with the timelines. Essentially, what you need to be looking at was our coverage here on screen, and with 2 laps to go, double that number for a lap time and see if you were safe or not.
It was close, but it didn't quite pay out for the Triarci team. Both of their cars taking the drive-through penalty with under 30 minutes to go in race 2 of the weekend at VIR.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Acura, BMW M, and Ferrari.
Fight at the front of the field starting to heat up a little bit. Ashton Harrison, gap was down, or has she has dropped back, excuse me, thank you, Calvin, behind the top 2 in Pro, but Ashton continuing to lead in Pro-Am, so now we keep our eyes on Michele Beretta, who has the top spot overall, thanks to that most recent sequence, but Stephen Agakani breathing down his neck, not letting the Italian driver feel comfortable.
Not at all. He saw the gap as well, and they both got by Ashton now, so it's a 1-2 for the pro class cars of Beretta and Agakani. Game on. Agakani would love to get that first win and right all the wrongs that they've had so far this season. It's an excellent and it's a quality race team, but just learning the ropes of this endurance racing and the quirks and nuance of these pit stops.
This is a big moment here for Stephen Agakani, a youngster, to put his name on the map. You look at what Michele Beretta has accomplished in a relatively young career. He's the reigning International GT Open champion going back to last year. He won the European Le Mans Series GTE class championship in 2020. He's had a lot of success in what is now GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup. He had the silver class. He's done some things in Italian GT and been successful winning championships there. Up and down his resume, it's championship, 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 race win after race win. Stephen Agacani, less of a known name, but now a chance to measure himself against a true up-and-comer in GT3 racing and put his name out there.
Yeah, and I didn't know Stephen that well until this year. Had a couple of chats with him, and certainly we've seen his personality come through in the interviews with Amanda down on pit lane. I think he's very determined. He's very aggressive. He wants to win. He's not intimidated. And he's going to go after this win here this afternoon.
Very much so. He's pushing hard. Their last laps were
Oh, and
effectively
he's
identical.
off the road. He's off the road. Big, big moment there, just pushing hard. And that edge of the road comes up on you so quickly. You're looking right through the apex. Can't really see the side of the road, just feeling it. Just pushed a little too hard there coming through Hogpen.
But a great save to salvage the day. Still running in second with under 25 minutes to go. Unfortunately now a long road to hoe here with 2.5 second gap to the leader. Michele Beretta now leading overall for K-Pax Racing. He had Stephen Agacani right behind him just a few moments ago. Agacani dropping a wheel out of Hogpen. That's cost him time. It's cost him track position as Ashton Harrison, the Pro-Am leader, was able to get through once again. And with just 24 minutes to go, Agacani needs to put that behind him quickly.
He does.
This is how the overall lead changed. Harrison had it. And we saw Beretta pulling to the inside. Again, not a battle for class position. Harrison really on the line there, just drifts a little bit wide, and Beretta able to tuck to the inside. They go side by side here through turn number 2 and into NASCAR Bend. Pretty big commitment from both drivers.
Yeah, watch Agacani here. It was cut and paste move, I think he did. Got it to the inside into turn 4. Got that track position. Was only about half a second behind Beretta there and had that moment in that off during our break. Took it off the road in Hogpen, and now he's lost the gap to the leader, and he's lost that track position to Ashton Harrison once again.
What's the message from the pit stand, do you think, to Stephen? He was pressuring for the win. Now it's a bigger gap that he's got to deal with. Are you talking about just consolidating this result, or do you tell him to go for it?
No, I think they're going to go for it. I mean, they really want to get the big points here today. I think just like yesterday, put it behind you, put that moment behind you, focus forward. It's going to be tough. Beretta seems super consistent in what we've seen from him so far this year, so he hasn't been making mistakes. So he's got that gap now of about 4 seconds over Agacani. That's comfort factor right there. He doesn't have to take risks in traffic if he comes up on anyone. And Ashton Harrison seems like she wants to fight for that overall position as well. She didn't give up that lead. I thought we were going to see her just move to the side. No, she went side by side with Beretta in the run up through 2 and 3.
I'm with you. I mean, when we saw the replay, when you folks at home saw it, it was the first time we had seen it too, and I was expecting that to play out a lot differently than it did, but give her credit. Like we said earlier, she's a racer, she's a scrapper, and has been so impressive despite very limited GT3 experience, albeit did get quite a bit of seat time, not in a race situation, but as part of the academy last year, and did run the Indianapolis 8-hour.
So a little battle here developing for the podium spots in Pro-Am. George Kurtz running second on the road. Charlie Luck there in third. I said they had a quiet day. I didn't realize, as you mentioned, they had a runner-up finish here yesterday. Kind of crept up on me with that result, but here they are, another strong rebound result for the Wright Motorsports team. Charlie got a little bit wrong at NOLA. I think he hit the brake and the gas pedal at the same time, had contact in race 1, and that kind of affected their whole race weekend there. So coming back from sweeping the weekend at Sonoma. What a day this would be for Father's Day if he could get a solid result with his son-in-law, Jan Halen.
And in many ways, this was Wright Motorsports' playbook to winning the Pro-Am Championship last year. They did win races. They won 3 of them, with Jan Halen teaming up with Fred Pordad to win that title. But the key to their season was just being there consistently, podium after podium. I think they finished off the podium only twice in the Pro-Am class the entire season. So having those kind of quiet runs to second gets you a lot of points, and it puts you in position to win a title.
Yes, those bad weekends when you don't get to the 75% mark of the race to score any points, they really hurt you. It's really hard to come back from that as competitive as this field is. It's a great little battle here. George has really been on form this year. He and Colin Brown moving over to the Riley Motorsports team. This CrowdStrike entry has been excellent. George has swept the weekend here in GT America competition and just really feeling confident in this race car once again.
Race Vision powered by AWS. Corner speeds at Oak Tree, turns 11 and 12. One of the slowest portions of the racetrack, but a very technical spot. And Ziad Gondor, remarkable, rolling through this corner right here at the highest rate of anybody per our Race Vision statistics at this stage. Getting an update that Stephen Agakani might be having overheating issues. I wonder if he picked up some grass in that off track, and yeah, I can see some of this.
Is packed a little bit.
And that's going to cost you some power.
Yeah, he's probably going to have to hit pit lane, even though there's only 19 minutes on the board. You can see he's dramatically lost ton straightaway speed here.
And Amanda reporting they're going to have to come to the pit lane to clean that off. So, man, once again, another promising run going by the wayside, it would appear, for US Racetronics, Laura Spinelli and Stephen Agakani.
Wow, wow, wow. What a season. So much pace, so much potential. It will come. They're too good for it not to come. Here's the move. Gets to come through hog pen, a little bit too wide, out in the grass. Just becomes like a lawnmower there at high speed. Just packs up the radiator grill. And even though we haven't had rain since, what, Friday afternoon? Thursday afternoon, I believe. So grass is dry, but it just packs up, and the air is just forcing it deeper into that grill.
Now more heartbreak for US Racetronics, but on the other end of the spectrum, K-Pax continues to control the race from the lead. Inside of the final 20 minutes, Beretta's lead has burgeoned up to over 6 seconds over Ashton Harrison, who continues to lead in Pro-Am and has a healthy advantage over this battle, which is for second and third in Pro-Am. Michael Dinan runs just ahead of them, third overall, second in Pro. So on pace to be a pretty good day for the Turner boys here today. And again, going back to the day for Wright Motorsports, Jan Heylen didn't have the best qualifying effort. His stint, he didn't move up too far. So great pit work, good strategy. And then what Charlie Luck has done during this stint has drugged them into podium contention.
Super impressive, very impressive last year. Was not intimidated when he was around other cars and teams with more experience. Got his elbows out on occasion when it was needed. And just can really drive quickly. Just really enjoying this new lease on life.
Second racing career for Charlie Luck. Went stock car racing, raced in what was then the Busch Grand National Series, second division of NASCAR racing back in the 80s. And took quite a bit of time off, got back into it through single make Porsche racing, a champion a year ago in the SRO 3 category of GT America powered by AWS. And now making the big step up to Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, and finds himself very much in the championship hunt. But the car that he's most closely battling in the championship, quite possibly, is the one directly in front of him.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting because both Kurt and Luck seem to have about a 6 or 7/10 advantage over Ashton Harrison, our Pro-Am leader right now. So certainly Dinan's the meat in the sandwich there, and he's got similar pace. So the way they're going, if these two guys don't fight too hard, there's enough time on the board. They could catch Ashton Harrison before the end of this race.
Plenty of time for it. With
that was a
17 minutes to go. Woo. Heart in your throat if you're George Kurtz.
If we can see it from the outside, that was arms and elbows inside that cockpit.
Well, we talk about Charlie Luck being a driver in good form at the moment. George Kurtz is driving with a lot of confidence right now, too. He and Colin Brown won in Pro-Am, one of the races at NOLA Motorsports Park. He has had a great weekend in GT America competition already. A race win earlier today for George. And driving with the confidence of a race winner at the moment. George Kurtz and Charlie Luck through the roller coaster, second and third, but making some headway. Both of them in tandem running down the class leader. Battle heating up for second and third in Pro-Am, with George Kurtz leading Charlie Luck in that fight, but both of these cars making inroads slowly but surely on the class leader Ashton Harrison. However, they have the roadblock, if you will, of the Pro Class car of Michael Dinan running very similar speed in between themselves and their class leader.
Well, they had been, but on that last lap, I think it was due to that big moment that George Kurtz had up through the S's. They actually lost ground to the Racer's Edge machine. So Ashton Harrison doesn't have the outright pace of maybe these two chasing drivers, but she's being super consistent, not making any mistakes. She's got her head down, determined to grab a second victory of the season.
What a story it would be, too, because that car was in pieces, and I'm talking dozens of pieces.
Yeah, it's not normally black at the front.
When it crashed yesterday at the very start of the race, Ashton Harrison was all right. The crew, though, had a lot of work to do, had to make the trip to North Carolina to pick up the spare parts, came back, burnt the midnight oil, got the thing completed right around 11 o'clock last night, and it did not turn a lap until Mario Farmbocker led this race from the overall pole to the green flag, and they have not skipped a beat. Racer's Edge wheeling on top of things.
They really are, and she's responding to the challenge. I'm sure she's being given the gaps back to Kurtz and Luck. And she continues to just deliver super consistent lap times, running high 146s here. Beretta up front, the slightly faster of the group at a 145.3, but this chasing duo here have suddenly lost a little bit of pace. Initially, they were taking about 7/10 off, but the last two laps, they've been some almost a second slower than Ashton Harrison. She's increasing the lead in the Pro-Am class.
And that radio communication most likely telling her about this situation. She has responded with good, solid laps, lap after lap. There's the gap over the past 3 laps, as a matter of fact.
They're a little bit wide there, trying to set up to get through turn 3. This has really become a legit overtaking passing zone, hasn't it? Down into turn 4 there. A lot of people liking it. If you surprise someone, there's suddenly not enough time to respond unless there's going to be a clash and a hit.
Well, next year, these folks will review the tape, and no one will be surprised when it happens in 12 months' time, because we've seen so many moves made in that spot.
Be a little bit of turn 15 at Coda. People didn't really want. Oh, big spin for Charlie Luck.
Down the hill towards the tire barrier. Can he get it stopped?
I think he's okay there. I don't think there's tires there. That's kind of the section of the racetrack that basically extends over to the back straightaway.
Well,
he's going to have to go back over to the S's. You can't shortcut the circuit.
Let's take a look at it again.
Lost it in the corner before, seeing the aftermath of it there.
We'll have to wait and see where he rejoins, but that was the 3rd placed car in Pro-Am, and depending on how much ground he lost, that could be big for the championship.
That will wake you up.
Yep.
About 150 mile an hour slide through the grass. You don't always know what's over there. You go off in the grass here, you just fingers crossed for a little bit.
Looks like that would put him back to 5th in class. David Askew and Chandler Hull both able to get by. So Chandler Hull and Bimmerworld now in position perhaps for a podium as it runs. Good battle here.
This is Gandor and Smithson, battle for 6th in the Pro-Am class. Smithson flashing the lights there, sharing this car with Brian Sellers. Had a bit of a quiet weekend. Expected a bit more. Certainly the DXDT team came here on the back of a victory last year with Michael Cooper and Aaron Vogel. Essentially their home track now.
Smithson was caught out in that early race incident yesterday. He went bounding over the curb and through the grass and broke part of the suspension, so that really delayed them considerably in the first race this weekend.
See Gandor there in full defense mode, taking that inside line, just nailing the brakes, letting the ABS system take over, just filling the gap there between he and the apex. Team's just probably counting him down on the clock, how long he's got to hang on here with this track position.
Nakakani sitting behind these two, fuming, I have to imagine, after his off-track moment led to an overheating issue. So much grass on the grill of that Mercedes. Smithson will pull over and let him through. Maybe his thought is to follow Agakani through Gondor if at all possible.
He lost a lot of ground, though, by doing that, didn't he?
Sure did.
There's places to do it and places you don't want to do it and lose a ton of time. Oh, and Agakani forces it's going to give Smithson the run on Gondor here off of Oak Tree.
Well, that's how Smithson hoped it would play out. He's now sitting there in the slipstream looking to make a move. This is for 6th in Pro-Am.
Ziad is pretty feisty, though. He doesn't give up easy. He'll get super defensive here into the brake zone for 13.
Guarding that middle of the track, making Smithson either go the long way around or settle in single file, which is ultimately what Scott elected to do.
Really been impressed with Scott here this year. It's a steep learning curve getting teamed up with Brian Sellers. You couldn't have a better coach and teammate than Brian. Real quality guy, so much experience, success over the years, but I think the racecraft is really what they're working on with Scott right now. In these scenarios, how do you make the move? How do you make it stick? How do you play the chess match?
It's time to find out what he's learned. It's test time here for Scott Smithson, working over Ziad Gondor, taking the wide approach to the corner, can't quite tuck it in for that crossover maneuver. Now staying single file through turn 2 into NASCAR Bend.
See that wide approach here. This is where the Mercedes torque really works well. Ziad recognizes that potentially he's going to be vulnerable there. Fills the middle of the road once again.
10th and 11th overall, but 6th and 7th in the Pro-Am class. The car that Ziad Gondor is driving, by the way, in the hands of Giacomo Altoe, set the fastest lap of the race. Is this trouble for Michael Dinan? Because he looks off the pace. George Kurtz just swung past. Dinan was running 3rd overall, 2nd in Pro. Charlie Luck with another issue. That was in Oak Tree. But I'm curious about Dinan and Turner.
Well, it seemed like Kurtz had a little bit better pace than Dinan, so he probably got to him, and maybe the Turner Motorsports team were just talking Dinan through that. Listen, that's not for position in class. Just focus on getting this runner-up finish behind the #1 machine.
Well, let's hope that's the case, and that's all that it is. Now, Dinan does have a bit of a gap back to Goikberg.
About 7 seconds.
Yep. Who runs, does Goikberg in 6th overall, 3rd in Pro-Am. With just 8 minutes to go, still a lot can unfold. Race 2 of the weekend for Fanatec GT at Virginia International Raceway.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Acura, BMW M, and Ferrari.
Seven and a half minutes on the clock. Scott Smithson, by the way, did get by Ziad Gondor for the 7th spot. Another change in position further back. Justin Wetherill passing Frank Kinnett. That is for 8th and 9th in Pro-Am, 12th and 13th overall. All of that on the most recent lap. Checking in, though, with the overall leader, Michele Beretta, who has a 15-second lead over Ashton Harrison, who continues to run very competitive lap times, very stout and consistent. But as I say that, off the track in Hogpen, this is the Pro-Am
Kurtz has
leader.
got to be close. Kurtz has got to be very close. There he goes. He flashes through for the lead in Pro-Am.
Oh my goodness. The fairy tale story takes an unexpected twist. Harrison trying to get rejoined, but there's really nowhere to go.
Dangerous part of the racetrack there.
This is something that was touched on in the drivers' meeting. They didn't want anyone cutting across that part of the track to get to the pit lane. John Meraki, hands over his face, can't believe what he's seeing. His car that had the race in Pro-Am firmly under control now pointed the wrong direction down the front straightaway.
Mario looking pretty poised, but you got to feel underneath that skin. He's just can't believe what he's looking at.
Oh. Heartbreaking for Ashton in Racer's Edge. That's cost her dearly. Charlie Luck just went through. Now Ziad Gondor and Scott Smithson going through as well. So from the class lead all the way down to 7th.
Well, I've been so impressed with her this year, but with her experience, you're going to feel that these little mistakes may happen now and again. But a bit of disappointment. She's doing such a solid job as she now tries to regroup here and get back into the groove.
And after a steady performance throughout the course of this day, Riley Motorsports, George Kurtz and Colin Brown find themselves second overall and in the Pro-Am lead by a handy margin, and now just 5.5 minutes away from claiming another race win this year. Back on board with the Racer's Edge car, Ashton Harrison trying to recover after the off-track moment just a minute or so ago. Big development in the Pro-Am class race. Ashton Harrison from the lead. An off-track moment cost her not just 1 or 2 positions, but 6. She's dropped all the way back to 7th. George Kurtz now leads in the Pro-Am class, and this, Calvin, is what happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you just touched that inside curb there through the final corner enough to push her across the road. It's such a precise corner, so easy to drop the outside, and watch right here. Just hits that curb a little bit, forces her out. No way back. The track continues to turn to the right. She's on the wrong trajectory there. Unfortunately, then spins it around, trying to get back to the racetrack, and then gets delayed trying to get it back, put it in the right direction as Lee Nefenegger looks on along with Mario Farmbocker. Major disappointment in that camp.
And now just trying to salvage something, racing with Ziad Gondor well back in the pack for the 6th spot. Ziad's a feisty one. He was stout in his defense a little while ago, battling with Scott Smithson, trying to hang on to that spot for all he's worth. Harrison trying to cross him over. Oh, that was close.
Yeah, she's just got to keep her cool here. She looks super frustrated right now. You can see in the language of the car and where she's attempting to make some moves. She's got a ton more pace here, but got a bit of time in her hand. But you know, Ziad's going to try and defend vigorously here.
Yeah, and Ashton's got her hands full. By the way, we saw Michael Dinan slow and let George Kurtz through. The report from the pit lane is a potential steering issue for that BMW. Now, Dinan still runs in 2nd in Pro, 3rd overall, and has a bit of a gap to Goikberg, but Goikberg's getting closer, so we might have a fight for 2nd in Pro underway before too much longer.
And Dinan trying to follow up. He and Robbie Foley on a runner-up finish here yesterday, so a good rebound from a DNF at NOLA. Okay, Ashton, let's see what you can do here. Got a couple of laps to do it in.
Right now, sitting in the tow, trying to find a way past Gondor. Here we go, Chandler Hull running in 2nd now in Pro-Am after that miscue from Harrison. This is Jordan Pepper trying to get through, not for class position. Excuse me, Misha Goikberg trying to get through. The importance here is he's trying to keep the pressure on Michael Dinan, who's suffering through some kind of mechanical gremlin, has not had the pace, and Goikberg needs the clean track if he can get it, if he's going to have a chance to get that 2nd spot here in the final 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, Dinan's only about 3 seconds down the road ahead of these guys, so certainly catchable if he's got a big issue with the steering.
Nice, solid day.
Flashes through the screen.
Yep. For the other BMW team, though, Bimmer World, Bill Oberlin started the car, and Chandler Hull has kept the nose clean, has them in position for a very stout finish.
Really impressed with Chandler here this year. His year didn't go off to a great start. They were actually testing here with a brand new race car. Had a big incident, had to switch to the 2nd car in the Bimmer World organization, but he's come back strong, hasn't affected his confidence whatsoever. They're looking for their 4th podium on the 6-race season so far.
And it would be their 3rd in the last 4 races. Yesterday's race notwithstanding, they've been really strong since NOLA. 3rd and 2nd in the 2 races in NOLA, 7th yesterday, and looking at a 2nd place finish quite possibly here today.
Certainly the K-Pax team will be telling Misha, keep pushing, try and get around Hull. Dinan may be backing up to you, but time is running out.
This is apparently a case of 2 BMW teams in different classes, and the longer that Goikberg is stuck behind Hull. That certainly helps the other BMW runner. I don't think that's what's going on here, but it is a byproduct of how feisty Chandler Hull has been in this battle that's not for class position.
Yeah, Dynan, despite the issues that he may be experiencing with the steering, is still running pretty good lap times, pretty much matching what Goikberg was able to do behind Hull here. So that gap is maintaining at about a 3 to 4 second margin there, as you can see him down the road.
Tucked right in line in the slipstream. Goikberg taking a peek, coming into the climbing S's. Not a place you typically want to go side by side, and he thinks better of it.
Trying to hit his marks perfectly up through there. They'll be pleased with another podium run here today. Still learning this new car. Had a bit of an issue earlier in the weekend. They had a test at Watkins Glen last week. Had some really sensational lap times there. Came here very buoyant about their potential this weekend. And Bill Auckland said the car was just not right. He said, I parked it halfway through one of the practice sessions and said, listen, we need to try and figure this thing out. We're not making any progress.
White flag flies for K-Pax Racing and Michele Beretta. Andrea Caldarelli and company, they were supposed to start 6th today. They ended up starting 4th due to penalties to 2 cars in front of them on the starting grid. A nice quiet run, great pit work, and they find themselves in position to continue this winning streak, which dates all the way back to the last couple rounds of the year last season as well. On board, Ashton Harrison taking a peek to the inside. Ziad Gondor closing the door with a lap and a half to go.
He's relentless, isn't he? He's really fighting tooth and nail for this 6th position. He wants to hold on to it. Ashton's probably going to have to be talked to by the team there at Racer's Edge to try and talk her through this lap. So they're going to finish this lap plus 1 more. That final lap has been indicated to the overall leader, not this group we're looking at.
Gondor, based out of Los Angeles, former rally driver. Earned a nickname Z-Hog in his off-road racing days. And he has put up a stout defense trying to hang on for 6th place against the erstwhile class leader Ashton Harrison in Racer's Edge.
1 lap to make it stick.
Gondor defensive down the front straightaway into the horseshoe. Harrison might take a lunge, but we go back now to the overall leader through the roller coaster for a final time. How about this K-Pax Racing team stringing together the wins one after another? Change of lineup doesn't matter. Michele Beretta and Andrea Caldarelli win once again, keeping the win streak alive. K-Pax Racing triumphs for the 2nd time in 2022 at VIR.
Sebastian, the engineer, congratulating Andrea on his 6th consecutive victory. I think we said yesterday it was 10 on the bounce. That'll make it 11 by my math. I think 10 plus 1 is 11, right?
Yeah, I guess the caveat to that is how you deal with the Indianapolis race. They didn't run for points in that one last year, so if you discount that, then that streak does go back quite a ways. In Pro-Am, this one was well earned. George Kurtz, Colin Brown, Riley Motorsports, and CrowdStrike victorious in race 2 of the weekend at Virginia International Raceway.
Yeah, big weekend. Got the penalty yesterday for that contact. Otherwise, they could have had at least a podium yesterday. Kurt swept the GT America events as well. Big weekend for that CrowdStrike group.
Here we go, on board with Harrison, trying to sneak to the inside of Gondor where there was only half a lane. She forced her way through, grabbed the spot, but Gondor's not done. Trying to come back, fended off for the moment. Harrison gets the bump, absorbs another one, and stays in front.
Wetherell's right there as well. This is 6th, 7th, and 8th right in front of you. See a bit of overheating coming from that Lamborghini.
Ashton Harrison on the final lap grabs B6. Now can Gondor hold on to 7th with Wetherell in the winner in Pro-Am yesterday coming through. A drag race to the line. Wounded Lamborghini. The Ferrari prevails in the drag race. Wetherell takes the spot by 95 thousandths of a second. P7 settled by that fine a margin. Gondor will settle for 8th, and the winner in the AM class, Triarsi Competizione once again, with Charlie Scardina and Onofrio Triarsi bringing it home 13th overall.
Yeah, Gando was like a teapot there at the end, wasn't he? Steam coming from underneath the hood.
And out the window, saluting the crowd that is assembled to watch Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. This weekend at VIR, K-Pax and Riley in the screen, the winners respectively in the Pro and Pro-Am classes. how about that drama up and down the field? K-Pax might have had him covered out at the very front, but as has been the case all season, from second overall on back, it is a street fight every time we show up to one of these racetracks.
You really do, and it's such an interesting dynamic where you get the overlap of the classes as well. You got to put it into perspective of the big picture, what you're really fighting for, but it certainly spices things up. Great run by George Kurtz there, just super consistent, kept hitting his marks, kept his head down, got the opportunity with Ashton having that quick spin. Triazzi Competizione, disappointment in the Pro-Am class this weekend by getting that strategy a little bit wrong. In fact, both cars suffered from it, but fortunately for the Am class, no competition here today with AF Corsa not competing.
Yeah, that was unfortunate to see a couple of teams unable to answer the bell after big accidents yesterday. The Triarci team doing what they needed to do. They've got 4 wins on the bounce now in the Am class. Have not been bested since the series left Sonoma a few months back. Cars making that hard right turn back into the paddock area, and very soon we'll be hearing from our race winners. And Michele Beretta once again showing just how good he is. Unflustered when he was under pressure from Stephen Agakani. He kept it perfect and was able to cruise to the victory.
Yeah, he did. I think it was Caldarelli's in lap, really. The 6 car did the undercut by a lap on the number 1. I think it was Caldarelli's in lap versus Agakani's out lap was the change in track position, and then Beretta just brings it home. No mistakes, perfect run. A lot of pressure on that man's shoulders. When you team up with someone like Andrea who's had so much success, to not make the mistakes and continue to deliver for this K-Pax team.
Yeah, there's a great deal of respect between the two. You can see it on their faces what these wins mean. Andrea saying yesterday, hey, these things aren't easy. They might look easy, but they are not. And it just goes to underscore what a tour de force it has been from K-Pax Racing to start the 2022 campaign. We'll be hearing from our winners here shortly at VIR. Couple of happy drivers down in victory lane. Your overall winners today, Michele Beretta and Andrea Caldarelli. Unofficial results from race 2 of the weekend. It was a 28-second gap, but it wasn't always that way. And in fact, until the second half of the race, it didn't look like K-Pax was necessarily the team to beat.
And no, it didn't. Certainly Agakani, who was in track position there, was chasing Beretta, made that mistake coming on the front straightaway, then all started to go sideways with the radiator grill being packed up. They had to make another excursion, or excuse me, another stop down pit lane. That cost them dearly, so it took them out of the running. So disappointment for that group once again.
And disappointment for these 2 cars on the second page of the results that were involved in incidents early in the race. CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. It came in the first stint. Giacomo Altoe in the TR3 Racing Lamborghini. And Ziad Gondor finished. Had that fastest lap, a 1:44.232. Impressive stuff from the Lamborghini factory driver. Let's hear from a couple more Lamborghini associated drivers in victory lane with Amanda.
Well, Ryan, he told us yesterday, Andrea Caldarelli looking for 10 wins in a row here in Fanatec GT, and he got it. And you said off camera that it was the overcut that got this win. 10 wins, Andrea. What do you take from your time here in this series?
Yeah, it's for sure. It's great. You know, it's yesterday we were talking about it. We knew that today was going to be harder, and actually it was. After a quite difficult start, bit of car bumper around, as you can see from the car, but then yeah, we managed to we kind of, instead of doing an undercut, we tried to stay out a couple of more laps. I tried to push hard and harder, and the team did a good job at the pit stop. We didn't lose. I think we were just 1-2 tenths over the pit time, and we sent Michele out in front, and then he did an amazing job to bring it back home and give me a 10 win in a row. Thank you so much.
Well, Michele, as Andrea just referenced, you were sent out in front of Stephen Agakani. Was that the key moment that won this victory today?
Yeah, actually, when I went out of the pit, look at the pit timer, it was, ooh, that's close. And but it was the right moment to pit. Perfect pit stop. Again, a good, amazing job from Andrea. So everybody did his part. So I think we did a nice weekend again. Hopefully to come back in Watkins Glen and do it again.
And a 4th win in the row for you.
Impressive stuff for K-Pax Racing. 6 straight wins for the one car to begin the 2022 campaign. They were hot last year, we thought, when they started, but they didn't do that. K-Pax in fine form in their new season.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Lamborghini, Lexus, and Mercedes AMG.
Beautiful day, great weather, good crowd on hand for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. The weekend comes to a close. A couple other cars that will be celebrating victories. This is one of them, with the duo of Colin Brown and George Kurtz just getting stronger and stronger as the year goes along.
Yes, a great fit. They know the Mercedes very well with running with the DXDT team, and certainly Riley Motorsports had success with the Mercedes as well. So you bring them all together, combining the resources there and the knowledge. They're very, very strong right now, and I think continue to get stronger as this season develops. So looking for great things this championship season, solid in the points once again.
Should also talk about our AM class winners, and they're standing by with Amanda.
Well, there are some highlights to take from VIR for the Triarzi AM group, as you were just saying, Ryan, but I'm not sure today was as exciting for you guys. I know that there was some confusions or frustrations on the pit window. How do you break that down and the miscommunication?
I think it was just something that, with the extended yellow caution, we weren't able to adjust enough to the proper window. But overall, it was a great weekend for us. We did a great job, and a lot of stability and a lot of things look positive for moving forward with us. So really excited to be here.
What's the learning lesson in that?
We got to keep pushing through it. We're pushing very hard here. We're making things happen, and we're going to keep pushing and make it better.
Nice job, guys.
Charlie Scardina on the right, Onofrio Triarci on the left. Winners for the 4th straight race in the AM class. And the most enduring memory for me of what they did this weekend is the fact that Charlie Scardina qualified 4th overall yesterday, Calvin. That was impressive.
Really, really cool. Great story. I mean, he's for real. I mean, had a good career going, stepped away for a while, returned, in our eyes anyway, last year with immediate effect at Sebring. So he's got pace. Team's learning a lot. Triazzi himself is certainly coming on strong. So, yeah, I mean, I wish the AM class was a little bit deeper. We certainly are disappointed to not see the second Ferrari competing today after the big hit yesterday. But they'll bounce back, and it should be a good battle down to the wire.
Scardina is one of those guys that has to give nightmares to whoever comes up with the driver ratings, because he's a non-pro. I mean, he's got another job. But he does have some successful racing in his resume, but it's been about a decade ago. So, and he's got great pace. So how do you rate somebody like that in a pro-am context? It's a difficult task, to say the least, and he's making the most of his opportunities, getting back into motorsports on a regular basis for the first time in quite some time. Winner for the 4th time this season in the AM class here this year. Celebrations underway at VIR. Let's hear from the Pro-Am winners.
What a weekend to celebrate for George Kurtz. He sweeps the GT America class, now punctuates the weekend with a win here in Fanatec GT. And you told me off camera that you saw Ashton Harrison go off the track. What was that moment like for you?
Well, you just got to hang around, and hopefully you get a little bit lucky. She drove a great race, so we just took advantage of her off, and we just kept it super clean and consistent. And the CrowdStrike Rally guys gave me a fantastic car, and as I told you earlier, I love this track.
Colin, you hit the right on it on that start, making up some positions. When you look at your stint today, what was it for you that stuck out?
Yeah, for me, it was the work we did on, Friday here, really. We worked on our long run car, worked on the tire deg. This Mercedes super strong on the tire deg. So for me, it was about getting a good start. That's an opportunity there. Got to second and then just kind of held position. I knew George would do a great job when he got in this CrowdStrike machine, and he always delivers. So it's a pleasure to race with him and to drive for a guy like Bill Riley, and our engineer Matt did great. Great support from Carlo in Europe, and just really proud of the guys. Total team effort. It was super hot this weekend and nice to finish off strong.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Talked about it earlier in the weekend, Calvin. George Kurtz back in his GT4 days, all of a sudden it clicked and he started rattling off these wins. He's looking like a similar driver this year now in GT3.
Yeah, he's able to take it to that next level, and I think he's in his comfort zone once again. He's got a great group around him. They're confident in the race car. Don't seem to be searching quite as much as they were in years past. So it's all clicking right now.
Fun weekend at Virginia International Raceway. Coming up next for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, a trip to upstate New York and Watkins Glen International. One fantastic race course after another on the calendar. Thanks for tuning in. We hope to have you joining us for the next round at Watkins Glen. A good weekend of racing at Virginia International Raceway. Podium celebrations about to get underway. Let's look at the highlights of race 2 of the weekend, Calvin, and plenty of excitement from the drop of the green flag. Highlights coming your way here shortly. And this is how the race got started. It was Mario Farmbocker in the heavily repaired Racer's Edge Acura that led the field to green.
It did, but Colin Brown has an excellent start here, heading down into turn 1, really forces the issue down to the inside. Gets inside Ryan Dial. Dial suddenly didn't have the best of starts. Spinelli slices to the inside of Caldarelli. And then we saw a big moment here.
Strange situation as Corey Lewis goes off track, reported potential ABS issues. That brought out a full course yellow. Then on the restart, plenty of excitement here, battling further back in the pack. Stephen Agakani aggressive early.
Yeah, really was here. Just a lot of battling to and forth for the 6 car. It seems to be their hot spot there, making a move into turn 4.
This was the change in position for the overall lead after the pit stops. Then a fight a little bit further back for second overall. Ashton Harrison driving the Pro-Am leading number 93 Acura, and she would continue to lead in that class. Stephen Agakani with an off-track moment. That took him out of position to challenge for the Pro-Am win. Similarly, big spin here for Charlie Luck from third in Pro-Am. Then Harrison off track, costing her quite possibly the win.
Yeah, unfortunate there. She very rarely makes a mistake, but a costly one here today.
K-Pax Racing survives the carnage, and they reign supreme once again out in front as the checkered flag flew. Andrea Caldarelli staying perfect this season with his new co-driver, Michele Beretta. Big excitement here on the final lap, fighting for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Harrison takes the spot away from Gondor. Appears to have a radiator puncture. That's going to cost Gondor here because now he's going to lose 7th spot to Wetherill in a dramatic drag race to the line. What a final lap it was in the Pro-Am class as Harrison got through to 6th and Wetherill by less than 1/10 of a second grabbing the 7th spot as the checkered flag flew. Exciting stuff for race 2, and again coming up next for the championship is a trip to Watkins Glen, Road America after that, then Sebring, finally culminating in the Indianapolis 8-hour, a joint race in part between Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, as well as Intercontinental GT Challenge, powered by Pirelli, which is underway with the Bathurst 12-hour occurring earlier in the season. Spa 24 coming up here shortly. Indianapolis will follow that, and the season will wrap up as far as these high-profile international GT3 endurance races in Kyalami, South Africa, later on in the year. But great to have that crossover amongst the SRO groups with Intercontinental GT Challenge joining, in the case of Indianapolis, the GT World Challenge America Series.
Yeah, it's been a great event as it continues to go from strength to strength, but looking ahead to the summer months here, we go from one iconic venue like VR to another, Watkins Glen, then after Road America, one of my favorites, and Sebring, such history there, and then finishing off Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Can't ask for a whole lot more. Your race winners in the AM class have taken the stage. That is Charlie Scardina on the left, and Onofrio Triarci on the right. They'll be recognized in conjunction with the Pro-Am podium finishers. I'll tell you what, we didn't talk much about David Askew and Dirk Moeller, but that's a second consecutive podium for that pairing, which really need the boost. It's not been a great start to the season.
No, it's been a slow start, but I think they're going to gradually learn from Dirk Mueller's experience with that Mercedes AMG platform. Great run there for Chandler Hull and Bill Aublin as well, getting on the podium, 4th podium of the year for that group.
And remember their frustration yesterday in race 1. They looked like they had a good run going. Problems late in the race cost them dearly, but they bounced back and come home 2nd place. And then for the 2nd time this season, it's Riley Motorsports, the new team for George Kurtz and Colin Brown, at least as far as GT3 racing is concerned. They get it done in this incredibly competitive Pro-Am class.
Yeah, really solid run for these guys this weekend. They're going to be tough to beat for that championship.
Hat dance underway from the Pirelli hats to the VP Fuels hats. Big grin on George's face says it all, I think.
Well, it's a big weekend, right?
Yep.
3rd win of the weekend combined with his 2 wins in GT America. Could be on for a double championship. Long way to go there.
That's true, but he's doing what he needs to do to put himself in that position. And there's something about the champagne spray on Sunday that's a little more vigorous than Saturday. You don't have a race to look forward to the next day.
Aublin looks the most polished, like he's done it a few times before.
Maybe a handful.
But Dirk Mueller there, the experienced one, keeps some in the bottle for the finish.
How many times have those two been dueling over the course of their careers?
A long time, and BMW teammates with Team RLL, so they know each other well. Great to see a little bit later in their career now doing battle once again.
Well, that brings to a close an exciting weekend at Virginia International Raceway. Thanks to our entire crew. Thanks to you for tuning in. For Amanda Busick in the pits and Calvin Fish alongside we here in the booth, I'm Ryan Marine. So long from VIR.